and I talked to one of the refs when she checks in. Hey, we got history from the first game.
There's not just the voice. There's these pictures, that have come out. And I know a lot of people immediately want to say, well, these are, they're not real pictures, right? They're doctored photographs. But this one I saw, I was like, man, that's actually the girlfriend in the background.
This is the part where everyone screams, "No way this actually happened." And yet the headline reads like a slap. A courtroom, not a court of play, just benched a global basketball icon from the Olympics. If you came here to figure out how a legal argument outmuscled a 7-footer's wingspan, you're in the right place. And before we go any further, lock this in. We are walking through a dramatized what-if scenario built from the online narrative you've seen spreading like wildfire. Because whether you love or hate the people...
You seem concerned but hopeful.
I'm only hopeful if she doesn't win. If she wins, we're going to have a real problem in this country. And the problem will be on the world level, it'll be on a national level, and it'll be on a state level. I don't know what she brings to
involved. The ideas here are bigger than one name, one league, or one summer. The claim on the table is simple and explosive. A high-profile legal figure challenges an all-world center's Olympic eligibility, argues it's about protecting the integrity of women's sports, and a judge agrees. One ruling, one signature, one dream gone. If your jaw's already on the floor, good, keep it there. Because the stakes are vicious. A once-in-a-lifetime tournament, endorsements that only show up every 4 years, a legacy written in gold ink suddenly smudged by courtroom ink. And here's where the twist slices through the noise. Everyone expected the fight to happen on hardwood with cameras and highlight reels. Reality kicks the doors in and says, nope. We're doing this under fluorescent lights, with stenographers and case law. I'll show you the exact moment the room flipped, the argument that made the bench lean forward, and the fallout that chased every player in the league back to their group chats. And yes, we'll come back to the most uncomfortable part of the discourse, the rumor mill that pretends it's evidence. Spoiler, it isn't. But the way it gets used in the theater of public opinion matters, and we're going to peel that apart without handing a microphone to bad faith noise. Picture the first hearing like tip-off in a building where silence hits harder than booze. Shoes squeak outside in the hallway. Inside, there's no scoreboard, only faces, attorneys, reporters, a judge who has no interest in being a prop for anyone's viral moment. The athletes' team arrives ready to swat this away as a publicity grab, an unserious gambit that collapses the second it meets a statute. But the challenger doesn't roll in with cable news swagger. The strategy is pared down, tight, almost clinical. They frame it like a referendum on fairness, eligibility rules, declarations, governing body precedents. It's not witty, it's weighty. And that's more dangerous than a flashy opening statement because it plants a seed in the court's mind. If we don't address this, are we letting something slide that fans will call us out for later? That's the first mini shift. Not a bucket, just a possession change you barely notice. But momentum is real. Even when it's colorless, to be why the second session, you can feel the temperature rising. The athlete who has spent a career drowning out hostile arenas suddenly has to sit still while their name becomes a case caption. Points and rebounds look microscopic compared to phrases like competitive integrity and eligibility determination. The challenger's team keeps it technical, training timelines, international decisions, governing body interpretations. No character assassination, no tabloid theatrics, because they don't need them. They want the room to believe this is a dry fix-the-rules issue, not a personal crusade. And that's where the game inside the game lives. Every technical clause is a backdoor cut. Every precedent cited is a screen you never saw coming. When the defense responds by calling the whole thing ridiculous, the judge doesn't laugh. They ask for citations. That's when everyone watching realizes we're not in a skit anymore. Here's the part that'll have you gripping the armrest. A witness walks the court through how Olympic eligibility is supposed to be determined, governing bodies, timelines, checklists. It sounds boring until you clock the subtext. The process is only fair when every step gets followed exactly. Precision is the point. The challenger says a step was skipped, or interpreted loosely, or applied inconsistently. If that's true, the court can't shrug and say, close enough. Was it a smoking gun? No. It was a paper cut that wouldn't stop bleeding. The athlete's counsel argues context, intent, common practice, and the reality that nobody in international sport hits 100% procedural perfection. But the courtroom doesn't trade in vibes. It trades in record, precedent, and the narrow lane the law gives you to drive through. Second mini cliffhanger. Is a procedural misfire enough to derail an Olympic run? In a tournament game, A ticky-tack foul makes you roll your eyes. In a legal arena, it can flip the entire bracket, and then comes the ruling. Short, clinical, brutal. The court bars the athlete from competing in the upcoming Olympic Games pending compliance with eligibility procedures as interpreted in this decision. No fireworks, no monologue, just a few paragraphs that travel faster than any fast break. You can practically hear the echo bounce through the league. Teammates text question marks. Coaches pick up calls they didn't want to answer. Agents start calculating how much an Olympic summer is worth to a name brand in a year when the world watches 30 million eyes at a time. On social, the takes ignite like dry kindling. Half the timeline screams that a courtroom stole what should be decided by the scoreboard. The other half says rules are rules, and if you make exceptions for stars, you don't have rules, you have suggestions. Expectations meet reality in the middle of the road, and neither one breaks. Let's underline the costs because they're not abstract. The Olympics aren't just medals, they are multipliers. They turn recognizable into inevitable. Every shot in that jersey becomes a brand commercial, a lifetime clip, a passport stamp for legacy. Take that away, and it's not simply a missed tournament. It is a cliff in the timeline of a career. Endorsements notice. International doors close a little. The oxygen around the story gets thin. And for a player who has turned pressure into performance for years, this hits where the cameras don't go. Quiet rooms, long nights, that heavy stillness an athlete learns to outrun by lacing up and going again. Except you can't lace up against a ruling. You appeal. You wait. You hope. Hope is a terrible training partner. Meanwhile, the challenger steps in front of microphones and frames the outcome as a defense of principle. They say no one is above the rulebook. They insist this isn't about celebrity policing. This is about the invisible architecture that keeps competition from becoming chaos. Depending on where you stand, that either sounds like stewardship or grandstanding. Here's the real tension. Both readings can be true at once. A courtroom can enforce a principle and still create collateral damage you can't quantify with stats. That's why this story caught fire. It lives in the gray, where sports hate to stay. We want clean results. We got a knot. Now we have to address the part of the discourse that always dirties the water, the rumor echo chamber. The moment a high-profile woman athlete faces a public challenge, bad faith voices slither in with invasive, dehumanizing speculation and pretend it's relevant. That noise doesn't belong in evidence, and it shouldn't be given oxygen here. But we can't ignore